Move on to chapter 4 now. If you looked up on the board, notice that chapter 4 is quick, at least this part of it. We've broken chapter 4 into two parts.
We have an assessment on Friday.
We'll talk 4.1 today. 4.1 is congruency. We'll talk about what all that means here in just a second. Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to talk 4.2. So we've got 2 days of 4.2, and then we're going to take a quiz over these two sections on Friday. Okay, so just a relatively quick little snippet of things. Then we're going to quiz over it, and then move on to some triangle congruency. So basic plan for today, I've got three things. We want to complete congruent statements by naming corresponding angles and sides. We want to be able to mark angles and sides to indicate congruency, and then write statements of congruency. It's not necessarily going to be in that order, but these are kind of the three things that we want to take care of today. Now, congruency is not a new term. We've used the word congruent in here tons. And we've said that congruency means that if we have sides that are congruent, it means they have the same length. Okay, remember symbology we use for congruency? It's kind of an equal sign with a squiggle above it. Okay, that's what it means we put between to mean congruency. Okay, so when we're talking about figures and congruency, kind of the first thing really for your notes after you added to the heading, figures that are the same size and the same shape are said to be congruent. Okay, don't need your computers right now. Zero reason to have any computers open or anything else like that. Figures that have the same size and same shape are said to be congruent. So in order for things to be congruent, they have to be exactly the same size and they have to be exactly the same shape. It doesn't mean that they need to be oriented in the same way. If one of them might have been turned 180 degrees. But as long as they're the same size and the same shape, we make them say they're congruent. Yes, and again, the rest of the stuff up there you really don't need for your notes. That's just what we're going to do. Just the 4.1 congruency is all you need. The rest is just what we're going to do for today. No reason to write that down. Okay? So if we take these two shapes, and I do want you to get these two shapes in there, we've got two triangles. Now we've talked about congruency and how we mark things congruent before. So remember when we mark angles congruent, we mark angles congruent with arcs. So angle A on our figure 1, if we call this figure 1, we call that figure 2. Angle A on figure 1 is congruent to angle D on figure 2. They each have one arc. Angle B is congruent to angle E, and angle C is congruent to angle F. Okay, we also remember we indicate sides with tick marks. So AB has one tick mark, as does DE. EF has two tick marks, meaning it's congruent to BC because it has two tick marks. And then AC has 3 and DF have 3. Okay, so we say that they're congruent to each other. The way we write what's called a congruency statement is I can say that triangle ABC is congruent. So figure 1, ABC, I can say is congruent to figure 2. But when I say they're congruent to each other and I write what's called a congruency statement, it's very important how you write the second one. How I write the first one doesn't matter. I could put triangle ABC, triangle BCA, or triangle CAB. Doesn't matter which way I put those. What does matter is how the second one is written. With the second one, I have to follow the order. So angle A from figure 1 is congruent with angle D in figure 2. So when I'm writing this congruency statement, A and D have to be in the same position. So since angle A is first for figure 1, angle D has to be first for figure 2. Angle B is congruent to angle E. They both have two arcs. So B and E need to be in the same order. So D, E, and then obviously F. Okay, so that's called a congruency statement. That triangle ABC is congruent to DEF.
So it'd just be a different order if you put.
Correct. So if I took this first one and wrote it instead BCA, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but which one corresponds to B? B and E. So when I write the second one, this has to be E. C corresponds to F, and A corresponds to D. Okay, so the first one doesn't matter. The second one does. So for you guys, if I put angle CAB, so if triangle CAB, go ahead and write down what that's going to be congruent to. CAB is congruent to, which one corresponds to C? F. Which one corresponds to A? D, and then E. So the first order doesn't matter. Second one does. So when you're doing most of your assessments on this, I'll give you this one because I want it in a specific order. Not all the time, but sometimes. So now what does all of this mean? When you have two triangles are congruent to each other, it means that the sides are the same and the angles are the same. So another thing we can do is I can write the three angles congruent to the three angles. So I can say that angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B, nice A. Let's erase that. You can say angle B is congruent to angle E, and angle C is congruent to angle F. Okay, and again, those are shown by the tick mark. Those are shown by the arcs. We can also do the three sides. Okay, so I could take side AB. AB has one tick mark, and so does DE. So line segment AB is congruent to line segment DE. Line segment BC is congruent to EF, and AC is congruent to DF. So I've got the three angles that are congruent to each other, and I've got the three sides that are congruent to each other. Again, I know they're congruent to each other because of the arcs and the angles and the tick marks in the sides. So this middle part, again, this is called a congruency statement. Pink is a congruency statement saying which triangle is congruent to which triangle. These are comparing the angles that are congruent to each other. And these are comparing the sides that are congruent to each other. And we want to be able to write all three of these things, depending on what the question is. Okay, so let's look at an example. Okay. So I have these two triangles. I have triangle DEF, and I have triangle RST. Okay, I'm just going to ask a couple questions from this. The first question is I want to know which angle, if angle D in figure 1, so if we call this figure 1 and we call this figure 2, angle D is congruent to what angle in the other one?
T. Oh,
Which one is it?
T.
T. Angle T. Angle D has one arc. Angle T has one arc. So they're congruent to each other. Do you two want to go out in the hall and have your conversation? Or it'd be easier for me and you probably to get more accomplished. I don't care. Well, what's that? So then we can do sides D. So if we do side DE. So if I do side DE and I want to know what side DE is congruent to. So DE is right here. It has one tick mark. Which other one has one tick mark? TS. So side TS. Angle S is congruent to angle, which one? E. Angle S is congruent to angle E. Okay. Triangle DEF. Go ahead and write what triangle DEF is congruent to. Which one corresponds to D? T. Which one corresponds to E? S. And then R. Okay. Side SR. Side SR is congruent to what? What is it? EF. SR is EF. Okay, now I'm going to take the picture away. Don't pay attention to this at all yet. I'm going to take the picture away, and I'm going to say side DF. If I take the picture away, and I just leave the congruency statement. If I just look at the congruency statement, what is DF going to be congruent to? To TR. It's going to be congruent to TR. You don't need the picture if you have the congruency statement. You can do these without it. Angle D, you notice it's first. Angle T, it's first. DE, side DE is first and second in the first one. TS is first and second in this one. Angle S. Angle S is the second angle in our congruency statement. It has to be congruent with the second letter in the other one. Okay? And that has to work. So you don't necessarily need the angles, it's the triangle or the figure itself. So go ahead and answer those 4 questions. Shh, do it on paper, not out loud. Or do it in your head. If I give you that triangle IJK is congruent to triangle ITU, I'll go this way. Answer those 4 questions. Retired life. Angle J. Which one's with angle J?
T.
Angle T. Second spot, second spot. IJ. First two, IT. Angle K, angle U, and TU, JK. Does that make sense? Make sense? Any questions with that one? So we've got congruent statements, we've got angles, we've got sides that are congruent to each other. This one. With a figure on the top, we've got triangle ABC. So I want you to go ahead and draw this, but I've got triangle ABC, and I've got triangle DEC. So here's what I want you to do with this one. This one, I want you to put the tick marks and arcs where they belong. So in the past, you've been given the tick marks and asked to write the congruency statement. Now I'm giving you the congruency statement. I want you to put the tick marks and arcs on the drawing. Let's work it kind of backwards. I'm giving you the congruency statement. You put on the marks. Okay, so I do angles first, and here's how I do my angles. I put one arc, because A is first, I always do the angles first. I'm going to put one arc at A, and then that means I have to put one arc at D, because they're both in the first position. I'm going to put two marks at B and E. So B is going to get two arcs, E is going to get two arcs. And then C is going to get three arcs and three arcs. Now, when I do the sides, I go AB. They're the first two letters. So I just give AB one tick mark. And then the first two letters are the second one are D and E. So that's going to get one tick mark. BC. So that's a side. I'm going to give BC two tick marks. But now I'm going to make sure that I do the right one. I need EC. My drawing doesn't look good, but that's where the two tick marks have to go. And then I do the last ones. They're just going to get three tick marks. Okay, so those are the tick marks for that congruency statement. Again, I do the angles first. One arc, two arcs, three arcs, one tick, two ticks, then three ticks, when I'm doing these. Okay. Any questions with that one? All right, one last question for you. Given that drawing, you can draw it, you don't have to draw it. I just want you to answer these three questions. Write the congruency statement. So triangle FEG is congruent to which triangle? Side HI is congruent to what side? Angle H is congruent to what angle? Side EG is congruent to what side? So if that drawing, answer those four questions, then I think we're going to be good to go. We ready? So F has 2 tick marks. What has 2 tick marks on the other triangle? Or I'm sorry, not tick marks. F has 2 arcs. Which one has 2 arcs? I. E has 1. So H. So IHG, and it does have to be in that order. Okay. HI. I'm not even going to look at the picture anymore. I'm just going to ignore the picture now that I got the congruency statement done. And I know that's right. I'm not even going to look at the picture anymore. HI. Notice H is second, I is first. So EF. Now, if you put FE, it's the same thing. Okay, EF and FE, it's the same thing. I just like to keep it in the order that they put it there. Since it was second and first, I just went second and first. H and E. So angle H, angle E. And then EG, HG. Look right? Any questions with this? So that's congruency. And again, we wanted to be able to kind of do those 3 things. I think we're good to go. We can make the statements, we can mark the angles, and we can write the segments of congruency. Yes? Yes. Your assignment is inside of School of